Okay, so like the male gonads, okay, the female gonads, or we call ovary, produce the gametes and also the sex hormone. But for our topic today, we're going to focus more onto the gametes, and the name of the process is known as the oogenesis. Yeah, okay, so you can see that this is a structure of the female reproductive organs, where this is the vagina. Okay, this is the cervix, a very powerful muscular structure to close. Okay, and only opens when during the child's delivery, or I mean the labor process. Okay, and this is the whole body of the uterus. Okay, whole body uterus, and connected to two what we call the uterine tubes, or we call oviducts. So where is the oogenesis take place? The oogenesis actually take place inside the ovary. So a pair of ovary here. Okay, so when ovulation takes place, the egg cells will be released. So this egg cell also known as the secondary oocyte. So the sperm will travel, because during the ejaculation, the sperm will be ejaculated into the vagina. So in the vagina, the sperm cell are going to move across the cervix and move all the way into the uterus. But nothing happened in the uterus at this moment, because the chemical release, it will cause the sperm cells to actually move all the way into the fallopian tubes, and that where they're going to meet the secondary oocyte and fertilization take place. Clear? So for oogenesis, is definitely is more complicated. Okay, definitely will be more complicated. You can see that they're involved in few phases. Okay, few phases. One is called at the fetal periods, or prenatal. Either we say fetal or prenatal. Mean that before the girl are born. Okay, before the girl are born, and then after that we have the puberty until the menopause, and each month what is the main process take place. So let us look at the process. Okay, so if you understand the concept of the spermatogenesis, then for the oogenesis will be more or less the same. Okay, so let us look at it first. For the spermatogenesis, we have the spermatogonia. Same goes to female, they do have the oogonia. So this oogonia actually continue to carry out mitosis to form. Guys, this is not primary oocyte, cancel the primary oocyte, right, as this oogonia. So it means that from one oogonium, so carry out mitosis to produce many oogonia. Are you clear? So this oogonia will continue with the meiosis process. When it starts the meiosis, then if it develops, this oogonia will develop into the primary oocyte, but they stop at prophase 1. Okay, always remember, female process is not a continuous process. Female oogenesis process is not a continuous process. Basically, why female have a limited number of the oogonia? Because everything have to be done before the female are born. Basically, during prenatal or during the fetal stage, oogonia already developed. So that's why female will have a definite number of oogonia, and this oogonia will develop into the primary oocyte. They start the meiosis, but they stop at prophase 1. Okay, they stop at prophase 1, and this primary oocyte will do nothing in the childhood period of a female until the female reach the puberty. Are you clear? Until the female reach the puberty. When the female reach the puberty, okay, this primary oocyte, some of them will be selected. Okay, it's a random process, will be selected, and these primary oocytes will continue from the prophase 1, which is still in prophase 1, then will continue and complete the meiosis once. Are you clear? Okay, so you can see that this primary oocyte will complete the meiosis 1. Okay, but the divisions of the cells won't be equal. So you can see that one cell will be larger, contain larger amounts of the, larger volume of the cytoplasm compared to another one. So the larger cells now is termed as the secondary oocyte, but the another one cell which is smaller, which is not a gamete, it won't develop into gametes, is termed as the first polar body. Are you clear? It's termed as first polar body, which will be degraded later. So only one out of two, can you see that? Out of two, one of them is termed as a secondary oocyte, another one is termed as the first polar body after meiosis 1. Okay, so secondary oocytes will continue to, this meiosis 2, but again, they stop at the metaphase 2. So very, very important. You have to know that female never ovulates the ovum. What they ovulate here is the secondary oocyte, which stop at metaphase 2, which stop at metaphase 2. So what will happen here is, if there is a fertilization take place, can you see that? The penetration of the sperm cells, then the cell will continue and complete meiosis 2. Okay, will continue and complete meiosis 2. And you realize that, guys, in this case, again, cytoplasm will not be evenly distributed. So it will form one ovum and one we call second polar body. So if no sperm cell fertilization, then you will say the cells, the egg cell will stay as the secondary oocyte until the menstruations take place and discharge from the uterus. Are you clear? So you can see that the ovums is very, very short period of time only. Once it completes, then you can see that the fusions of the nuclei take place, and at the end, they form a quick one's ovum, and at the end, you form the zygote. Are you clear? Okay. So again, guys, I repeat the question, the process again. So first, for female, this process develops or starts during the fetal periods. During the fetal periods, where you can see that the oogonium carry out the mitosis to form more oogonia, and this oogonia will continue the meiosis process, but stopped at the prophase 1. So because the meiosis process take place already, we term this cell as the primary oocyte. Okay, so if put it here, oogonia is 2n, then primary oocytes also 2n. So this primary oocyte do nothing, okay, do nothing, and then until the girls enter into the puberty, where the hormones will stimulate some of these primary oocytes to continue from the prophase 1 to complete the complete the meiosis 1. Once the meiosis 1 completed, we know that we have to divide the cells. But when you divide, the cell division here is not even. You can see that they form one large cells and one small cell. The large cell is termed as secondary oocyte. Okay, which will continue, okay, the prophase 2 and then stop at metaphase 2 again. Okay, and then during this period of time, ovulation will take place. So when ovulation take place, then depends whether fertilization take place or not. If a fertilization take place, then meiosis 2 will complete, okay, and then it form a short wall of the ovum, and then fusions of the nuclei take place. Then this ovum will develop into the zygote. And again, because of uneven distribution, it formed the second polar body. Okay, but we need to know that the ovum or secondary oocyte won't grow alone. They grow together with the follicle. So we do need to look at the follicular development. So first, these oogonia are surrounded by the primordial follicles. Can you see that? And they do nothing. But some of these primordial follicle will be selected during the puberty and grow from primary follicle into the secondary follicle and matured follicles. Are you clear? Or Graafian follicle. Then ovulation take place. Please highlight here. Okay? Please highlight the ovulate secondary oocyte. So if you look at the things here, primary oocyte always 2n, primary oocyte, but secondary oocyte become n. Okay, you get this. Okay, secondary oocyte will be n. So what the cells actually or the ovulation process take place basically is the release of the secondary oocyte. Okay, the release of the secondary oocyte. Okay, so let us go through the process. So oogenesis occur in the outermost layer of the ovary. So oogenesis differ from the spermatogenesis. It begins in the fetal stage prior to birth. So germ cells, also known as the oogonia, which to end undergoes mitosis to increase in number. So oogenesis starts with the process of developing the primary oocyte, which occur via the transformation of oogonia into the diploid primary oocyte. So the process is known oocytogenesis. This is extra information, so no need to actually remember about this. It's commonly believed that when the oocytogenesis is complete, no additional primary oocytes are created. So that's why what we call this a definite number. So primary oocytes reach their maximum development at around 20 weeks of the gestational age, when approximately 7 million of the primary oocytes have been created. But at birth, the number already been reduced to 1 to 2 million, but still enough. Because for female, reproduction age roughly start around generally after puberty, so 12 years old, for example, all the way roughly to 60 years old. So it means that about 48 years. So 48 years multiplied with 12. So the number of the primary oocyte actually enough, okay? Because each month female only needs one, okay, to be developed. So meiosis 1 of the oogenesis begins at the prenatal age, but halts or stop in the prophase 1. So the primary oocytes are surrounded by a single layer of the flattened epithelial cells to form what we call the primordial follicles, and they remain in this state until the individual reach the puberty. Are you clear? So do nothing and they reach the puberty. Okay. So after the first menstruation, the cells are then continue to develop, although only few of them will be selected each round of the menstrual cycle. So about like 15 to 20 of them will be selected, and only one of these manage to reach the full maturation, guys. Okay, it's not all of them, but one, or at most, sometimes due to hormonal control, female may have two, okay, to develop, or 2 to 3 to develop into a secondary oocyte, where you can see that the twins or the triplets may be, okay, developed. Okay, as a result of meiosis 1, the primary oocyte has now developed into the haploid secondary oocyte and first polar body. What is a polar body? Polar body is a small haploid cell that is formed at the same time as an egg cells during oogenesis, but generally does not have ability to be fertilized because the contents of the cytoplasm is very, very small. So at the same time, the granulosa cells of the primordial follicle change from the flat to cuboidal structure, marking the beginnings of the primary follicle. So it means that the growth of the follicle also takes place. And the growth of follicle is very important because the growth of the follicle actually acts as the signal. So they release the hormones estrogens. We're going to learn it tomorrow when we the next lesson when we talk about the menstrual cycle, how hormone actually control the menstrual cycle. So immediately after meiosis 1, the haploid secondary oocyte initiate the meiosis 2. However, this process also will stop at the metaphase 2 until ovulation and fertilization take place. So at this stage, the fluid space formed between the granulosa cells, this eventually combine together to form a central fluid space known as antrum. When this primary follicle now has grown in size and is matured into what we call the Graafian follicle, or what we call this the ovarian follicles. Again, in our syllabus, we also term it as ovarian follicle. So when ovarian follicle or Graafian follicle matures, then ovulation actually takes place. Again, highlight, guys, when ovulation is a secondary oocyte, okay, it's released from the opening of the Graafian follicle. If the secondary oocyte is not fertilized, it does not complete the meiosis 2 and does not become an ovum. So therefore, there is no second polar body will be formed. But this unfertilized secondary oocyte will be disintegrated and released during the menstruation. But if the fertilization takes place, secondary oocyte continue the meiosis 2 and become the ovum, and this ovum only stay for a while only, and the second polar body. And Graafian follicle, after they release the secondary oocytes, for Graafian follicle, after they release secondary oocytes, then it form corpus luteum after the ovulation take place. Okay, so tomorrow or next lesson, you will be able to see the entire picture clearly when we involve the menstrual cycle and the hormones that involve in the menstrual cycle. So you can see that, guys, in this diagram, you have the you have this way called primordial follicle. Primordial follicle actually contains the primary oocyte that stop at prophase 1. Can I see that? So each month, because of the hormone, some of these primary follicle, primordial follicle will develop into the primary follicle, and then the primary oocyte will continue. Can I see that primary oocyte will continue the meiosis and develops into the secondary oocyte? Okay, the red color referred oocyte, and the primary follicle continue to develop into the ovarian or Graafian follicles. Can I see that? Ovarian or Graafian follicle. So this is secondary oocyte. So during the ovulations, you can see this ovulating follicle. So ovulation take place, liberate or release the secondary oocyte, which stop at the metaphase 2. So the remaining follicle will turn into the corpus luteum, corpus luteum, which has the role to produce progesterone, Okay, so you can see that, guys, in this diagram. You can see that this is the primary follicle with the primary oocytes. Okay, can you see that with the nucleus? Okay, so why is termed as a primary compared to primordial? Primordial actually were flattened cells, primary cuboidal cells. So this is how we differentiate between primordial follicle versus primary follicle. And in this diagram, can you see that it's a secondary follicle because this granulosa cells, this is entire secondary follicle or matured follicle. Okay, so you can see that this granulosa cell increase a lot surrounding the secondary oocyte. And this is a secondary oocyte. And after that, this follicle or granulosa cells will change or develop into the corpus luteum. At this moment, can you see that you won't get any secondary oocyte because secondary oocyte already what we call it, ovulated. Okay. So if you compare between the spermatogenesis and oogenesis, the definitions, very simple. We want to produce the sperm cells, and oogenesis, they want to produce the secondary or egg cells in the series of mitotic and meiotic division. So nature of the process, okay, from the male gametes, this one from the female gametes. Sorry, guys, my mistakes. Female gamete. So stages. So the process of spermatogenesis is completed through the following 3 stages: spermatocytogenesis, spermatotidogenesis, and spermiogenesis. And for the female, you can see that we have the follicular phase, ovulation phase, and also the luteal phase. So this one, we're going to learn in detail next lesson when we talk about the menstrual cycle, okay? So organs that involve here generate in the testis, oogenesis generate in the ovary, okay? And also involve the fallopian tube because of the developments, okay, from metaphase 2 to after the fertilization take place. Continuity of process is a continuous process, but oogenesis, it will stop, begin at fetal stage, stop, and then continue after puberty till the menopause. Rate of production, spermatogenesis form millions of sperm every day, but oogenesis release only 1 ovum, or more precisely, secondary oocyte, okay, per month. Cytokinesis in the spermatogenesis form 2 equal cells, but cytogenesis in the cytokinesis in the oogenesis actually form 2 unequal cells, 1 large oocyte, another smaller, okay, polar body. So total, you can see that functional one will be 4 for spermatogenesis, but for meiotic divisions, they only form 1. Okay, so the meiotic division of primary oocyte only form a single functional secondary oocyte. Okay, so you won't get both. So with this, I have done for the oogenesis.